Albert Einstein once said, if you want your children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. If you want them to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales. It is one of the most important and crucial elements of a child's education. Reading is essential for a student to become successful in school and in their journey throughout life. Most of the learning is done from reading books. The better a child can read, the easier it becomes for them to learn what they need in school. Before we discuss everything you may need as an educator to improve your students' reading skills, during this episode, I'm going to be sharing the benefits a student acquires from reading. This is Steve Hiles, and welcome to episode 42 of the Teacher Rockstar podcast, a place where tips and strategies critical to the new teacher are discussed. In today's episode, we're going to be talking about the benefits and tips on teaching reading essentials. So let's jump right in. Benefit number one, reading assists cognitive development. Cognitive development refers to how we perceive and think about our world in reference to our intelligence, reasoning, language development, and information processing. By reading to children, you provide them with a deep understanding about their world and fill their brains with background knowledge. They then use this acquired background knowledge to make sense of what they see, hear, and read, which aids in their cognitive development. Number two, it develops empathy. When we read a book, we put ourselves in the story in front of us. This allows us to develop empathy as we experience the lives of other characters and can identify with how they're feeling. Children can then use this understanding to empathize in the real world with other people. Additionally, children will gain a greater understanding of emotions, which can help them understand their own emotions and those of others. This helps dramatically with their social development. Moving on to benefit number three, reading helps gain deeper understanding. A book can take us anywhere, to another city, to a different country, or even to an alternative world. By reading a book, a child learns about people, places, and events that they couldn't learn otherwise. This gives children a deeper understanding of the world around them and cultures that are different from their own. Benefit 4. Reading assists building stronger relationships. If a parent reads with a child on a regular basis, then they will undoubtedly develop a stronger relationship with them. Reading provides parents with an opportunity to have a regular and shared event that both parent and child can look forward to. Furthermore, it provides children with feelings of attention, love, and reassurance, which is key for nurturing and well-being. Benefit number 5. Reading gives higher levels of creativity and imagination. Okay, think about this. Reading a book relies on us using our imagination for picturing characters, visualizing their settings and environment, and guessing what's coming next. We must use our imagination if we are to learn about other people, places, events, and times. In turn, this developed imagination leads to greater creativity as children use the ideas in their heads to inform their work. Now, before we continue on, here's a quick word from our sponsor. How would you like to 10x your classroom management skills? Well, if you're a brand new teacher, a student teacher, or perhaps a teacher returning back to the classroom, the Teacher Rockstar Academy course is for you. Gain the confidence and skills you'll need to crush it on day one and beyond. Enroll now at teacherrockstaracademy.com. That's teacherrockstaracademy.com. And put your teaching career on a whole new trajectory. All right, let's continue. How can you ensure your students understand classroom coursework? Build reading skills. Teachers love to share their favorite stories and subjects they are passionate about. But helping a child develop the same interest requires foundational reading skills to comprehend and enjoy the curriculum. Many children see reading as a chore, especially if it's tied to lesson plans and learning complex information. Teachers, parents, and mentors can help ignite a child's passion to read by incorporating activities focused on building reading skills to improve comprehension and engagement. Now, coming up next are some of the most useful tips that will allow you to help your student become a better reader. All right, tip number 1, annotate and highlight text. Teach your students to highlight and underline valuable information as they read. Have students write notes on the pages that they are reading to help them stay focused and improve comprehension. Students can also write down questions as they read to receive more explanation on a new concept or to define a new word. Now, I want to mention here that you're going to have to obviously model this before you turn your students loose to do this, because obviously you don't want students highlighting or underlining every single word in the text. So this is going to take some explicit instruction on your part. Okay, moving on to tip number 2, personalize the content. Students can increase their understanding by seeing how the material connects with their life. Have your students make personal connections with the text by writing it down on the page. You can also help students comprehend the text by helping them see an association with current events. Okay, tip number 3, practice problem-solving skills. Blend real-world problem-solving skills into your curriculum. Have your students write out solutions to the problem and discuss their ideas as a class or in small groups. Number 4, incorporate more senses. Add in activities that reinforce learning and comprehension by using more senses as they read. Remind students to read with a pen or pencil to annotate the text. Have your students take turns reading out loud. Use projectors to guide your lesson and write down questions for those who are visual learners. Tip number 5, understand common themes. Ask your students to look for examples of a certain theme throughout the chapter to increase engagement. Have students share their findings with the class to help students learn a specific theme more in depth. Okay, number 6, set reading goals. Have each student set their own reading goals. This can help them take action in building reading skills, and students will be more mindful of how they are improving. Now, here again, you're going to have to model this maybe by providing some examples of your reading goals. Okay, they have to be achievable, okay, and they have to be realistic as well. Tip number 7, read in portions, or if you will, chunking. Long, complex reading can be more digestible by breaking it up into pieces or chunks. Shorter segments will help students retain the information as the class discusses the materials. It can also help students build confidence in understanding a complete subject. Number 8, let students guide their reading. Your students process reading material and curriculum in very different ways. As you implement reading activities to help your class learn complex materials, you will learn what works best for each student individually. As teachers implement more reading activities into classroom coursework, students will find improvement in vocabulary, writing skills, problem solving, concentration, and cognitive development to help build a solid foundation for future learning. Tip number 9, utilize various reading materials. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, be creative by teaching reading through different formats. Books, magazines, books on tapes, CDs, and other recorded reading can give students multiple ways to connect with the material. Have students practice reading along with an audiobook, for example. I've done that in my own classroom quite extensively. They will gain experience seeing the words on the printed page while hearing them on the recording. Other technologies, such as text-to-speech software, can refocus a reading exercise into one where students can pay attention to the sentence structure and words without getting discouraged by their own comprehension. Now, before we jump into tip number 10, another quick word from our sponsor. Imagine having access to educational products, instructional videos, top-rated teacher podcasts, and articles worth over $1,000 for just pennies a day. Now, wouldn't that be awesome? And you know what the best part is? You get a free 7-day trial. So really, what do you have to lose? Go and check it out. Take a look around. Simply go to myteachermembership.com. That's myteachermembership.com. I will be adding more products each and every month, adding even more value. So you're going to love being a part of this teacher membership community. All right, let's continue on to tip number 10, relate reading to other areas of the student's life. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, just simply encourage your students to read selected material and then discuss it in relation to other books, movies, news items, or even TV shows for that matter. Have your students make the comparison. What did they like about how each format portrayed the topic? How would they have changed a format to better match the topic? What was the message the writers intended the reader or observer to get from the material? Being able to connect what has been read to something else in their lives helps students think abstractly about the material. Okay, moving on to tip number 11, have fun with words. As students work on their reading assignments, ask them to write words or phrases down that they don't understand and bring them to class on an index card. You can then conduct a classroom discussion on the words until everyone understands the various meanings and uses. Additionally, students can put their cards up on a wall, creating a record of challenging language they have mastered. Depending on the type and format of the classroom, these cards could be used for subsequent writing classes to help students further develop their vocabulary. Tip number 12, create a record of progress. Help students create a journal of their reading work. Have them list the reading they have done and a brief summary of the material. Make a section of challenging words or phrases. Another section can be used for passages they don't readily understand. Finish with the student's opinion of the material, likes, dislikes, and whether they would read more from this author. Review these journals with the students regularly and celebrate their progress with them. Use the journals at parent-teacher conferences so the parents can also see the progress. And I'll tell you, I think this is a great benefit when you're doing your parent-teacher conferences. Okay, moving on to the last tip I want to share with you today. Tip number 13, make reading about communication, not just a tool. Prepare several lessons where students read a number of different written materials. Now, here's a good example. Text from grocery store ads, instructions on how to put together a bookcase, a recipe, a newspaper article. Part of your state's driver's education handbook are all great examples, and there's many, many more. Start a discussion on how important it is to be able to read these items accurately and understand them. In each case, ask, what is the important information being conveyed? Where might students encounter the material currently in their lives? These real-world examples help students understand the long-term importance of quality reading skills and comprehension. Well, this brings us to the end of another episode. Thank you for listening to the Teacher Rockstar podcast. I'm your host, Steve Hiles. We hope you've enjoyed listening to these tips and strategies on teaching reading essentials. When you get a moment, visit my blog and subscribe to my newsletter for the latest educational research, best practices, and unadvertised bonuses at stevesclassroomresources.blogspot.com. That's stevesclassroomresources.blogspot.com. And don't forget to subscribe to us at the Teacher Rockstar podcast. And if you'd like to support us, please feel free to share our podcast with others. Post about it on social media or leave a rating and review. That would be super, super cool. Thanks again. We'll see you next week, same time, same place. And remember, my friend, you got this.